Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. We're just going to wait a few more minutes to get everybody on. We'll go through some logistics and then we'll get started. I see people continuing to join the different sessions. For those of you who just joined, we're going to wait one more minute and then go through some logistics and then get started. Okay. Well, again, we may have a few more people joining us still, but thank you all so much, wherever you are around the world, for joining us. My name is Brad Newsom. I'm a program director here at NIH, and I work with our DSI Africa program, leading our research programs. DSI Africa is made up of large research hubs, more targeted research projects, large training hubs, more targeted training projects, ethical, legal, and social implications projects, and our broad open data science platform and coordinating center. That is the core of DSI. And then these networking opportunities give us an opportunity to then go beyond, see how we connect in between, but then go beyond and really create a web across the entire continent of Africa and beyond, with great minds solving big problems. So that's what these networking events are all about. How do we bring people together, start talking about big problems, saying, I have a question, I have a problem in need of a solution, or I have a really cool solution. Let's figure out a problem that we can utilize that for. So that's what we're here for, today for. This morning's sessions were all about our current DSI Africa awards. We had sessions for the DSI Africa hubs, ELSI projects, coordinating center, the training programs. Some of you hopefully joined those programs this morning, and now we're focusing geographically. We can focus on a problem, like within our research hub, or we can focus much more broadly around a region, an area of the world where we need some information to really start figuring out how we can solve some problems. And this session brings together people that are not currently part of DSI Africa, but doing incredible work in the region to then say, this is what we're working, and let's figure out partnerships to address some of these problems. So I would like to say that we are recording this. These videos for all of the different sessions will be on the website afterward, so you can check them out. And then hopefully see the people that are on this call and start reaching out to them. If you see some people that are doing similar work or in a similar region and you want to collaborate, this is an opportunity. So in order to do that, I encourage you to put your name, your contact information, your institution, where you are, some information in the chat, and that'll give us an opportunity, because too big of a group to introduce everyone. But if you put that information in the chat, then people will be able to reach out to you more effectively with that contact information. So I encourage you to do that. I also encourage our presenters today to put some of their information in the chat, especially as we are having this discussion. A lot of people on this call may be interested in saying, I need to follow up with you to figure out how we can collaborate more effectively. So with that being the case, this is meant to be informal. You can, I would like to go through the presentations first, and then save your questions. You can put those questions for the presenters in the chat while you're thinking of them, or you can save your questions until afterward. But I would like to save some questions until afterward, and then we can have a dynamic conversation after the presentations. So with that being the case, you can put questions in the chat. You can raise your hand on the chat, on the Zoom feature, or you can take yourself off mute. Again, informal, and we want to drive really dynamic conversation through these sessions. So without further ado, I would love to turn it over to our presenters for today. Again, this is all about work that's going on in West Africa. First up, from the MRC unit in the Gambia, Boubacar, are you on the line with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, Boubacar, thank you so much. I mispronounced your name.
Boubacar, yes, that's fine.
So you can share your slides if you have slides, or we can have a dynamic conversation. It's all up to you.
I do have slides. Let's
okay,
do
so
slides.
you can share them directly.
I need to do a slideshow kind of thing. Okay.
Okay. Over
Can you see? I sincerely apologize. I have a terrible cold, so my voice is really bad right now. But I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm going to talk to you about data science at MRCG. MRCG is a medical research unit at the Gambia, Medical Research Council unit at the Gambia, which is part of the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. We recently established a data science cluster at the MRC unit, and we are trying to work or be a leader in health data science. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about the MRC and this data science cluster's activities. Okay, I'm assuming a lot of you know where we are, but I didn't take that for granted. So you can see we are surrounded by Senegal. You know, that tiny thing there is Gambia, tiny zoomed. So and our capital is Banjul. The MRC is not far from Banjul. Actually, you could see that we have we have labs and field stations all across the country. Our main campus is at Fajara, which is close to the capital Banjul, but we have field stations all across the country, and we focus on doing health research. So just a few of the metadata about us is our strategic vision is to respond to rising challenges now faced by the sub-Saharan continent, namely climate change, migration, and rapid urbanization that will have a major health impact. And our overarching aim would be to deliver research evidence that will generate knowledge supporting directly or indirectly the path to longer and healthier lives in all Africans. And we said by 2030, so it's an ambitious goal. Anyway, that's what we said ourselves. Some of you may not know about MRC, so I decided to probably point out a few things that will make you remember and make you identify what we have been doing. So we have key achievements in different areas of research that we have been focused in. For malaria, for instance, we have contributed to residual transmission and new interventions like the DFMA, parasite population genomics. We participated in the malaria vaccine, and in terms of bacterial and viral diseases, there was a lot of trachoma research, and in fact led to the elimination of trachoma, and work contributed to a large portfolio of vaccine trials that was taking place here, like polio, meningo, measles, rubella, yellow fever, and so on. Okay, and we also do a lot of research on maternal and neonatal health. So our research has contributed to new interventions for preventing neonatal sepsis, for instance, the score of pregnant women and offspring to investigate placenta disorders and so on. We also do non-communicable diseases, maternal periconceptual diet and offspring methylone first human evidence. So this was conducted by researchers at the MRC. This is just few key achievements to let you know that this is definitely a center that is leading in research in these areas in West Africa in particular. Move to the next slide. All right. But how is MRC set up? And just a situation where this data science that I'm going to talk about is this is the science cluster. So all our research is divided into research teams. We have 3 teams: disease control and elimination, vaccination and immunity, nutrition, and planetary health. Okay, and then everything else is to support that. It's an ecosystem that supports that research. Okay, and then we have platforms, or like we have labs and others. In particular, we have a group of units considered as research services. Data science is one of those, governance is one of those, the laboratories is another. Okay, so data science at MRC falls under the provision of research services to support in mostly computing related services or data related services to the PIs that do the research in these different teams. So the departments of the data science cluster, so we call it a cluster because there were existing departments before this. They were brought all together under one umbrella called the data science cluster. So we had a data management and architecture department. We have applications development and e-health. We have stats and computational bioinformatics department, and we had a high performance computing center. These form what is called the data science cluster. We have a vision as a subunit of MRC as a data science cluster. We aim to become a leading regional center of excellence in health data science, globally recognized and locally relevant, as we call ourselves. And our mission is to conduct impactful research and development training in health data science, but also to provide the support that the unit researchers need in terms of data science. And these things are broken down into certain objectives, how to achieve those vision and mission. And I was told it's 5 minutes, so I'm trying to run through quickly. So our activities can be categorized into 4. We provide research services. As you can remember, we are supposed to provide research services to the PIs in the unit. But we also have the mandate to conduct research and development. We have an apps development team, and some of us are academics, and we're supposed to have publications. So we do conduct research. And those two, to continue, we need to do capacity development. So we have a mandate to do some capacity development in data science, and then we give back to society by doing outreach. So the type of services we provide are, like I said, mostly all the data science and technological support that the unit needs. But I think about this as a pipeline. The way our data science cluster is set up, we have this potential of guiding research or aiding research from the onset to the final, or even beyond. Okay, for instance, we are involved in the study design at the beginning of the research, where we have statisticians that can help in the setting of the statistical requirements, but we also have data architecture experts that would help build any architecture or databases that are needed for where the data would be collected, But also to capture this data, we have apps development teams that can help develop any questionnaire type, digital questionnaire that we make, for instance, And in databases are built, they're maintained. We have database managers that maintain these databases. Then when the data is collected and ready, we could do all the analysis. We have the statistical teams on the ground and data science experts that would help in the analysis of this data. But we don't stop there. If after publication, if there is something that is possible to be built, for instance, in terms of a software app, we have the team that is able to do that. So we have this pipeline, data science pipeline that is complete at our unit. In terms of research and development, what are we interested in as researchers within this data science cluster? We would be working still on methods. So most of us have background in statistics and machine learning, model building, for instance. We have epidemiologists among us. We have bioinformaticians amongst us. We have people with expert in pool testing, for instance. But also we will continue to develop software. We would build data depositories. I was very happy to listen to Eloise today. We are thinking of something similar for MRC, for instance, a smaller version of that for just MRC research, and probably connect it to people in our MRC network in West Africa, but also maybe even link with Eloise. And like I said, capacity building, of course, we want to survive. We are not going to be here forever. We want to get people who get skills and continue where we stop. But also even at where we are, there's a lot of gaps we need to fill, the gaps we are thinking of filling in biostatistics, for instance, machine learning, computational bioinformatics, software development. And how do we try to do this? We would be running training courses, teaching and learning courses, like in the form of short courses, master's courses. And since we are part of a parent body, which is the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, they run some courses that we can actually collaborate with them and run at the MRC at a cheaper cost to people from the sub-region, for instance. We will conduct training in research, like we offer intensive positions, we offer MSCs, and we supervise masters and PhD students. To give back to society, we undertake some outreach activities, and we start. It says charity begins at home. We have departments that are supporting the scientific activities that need some support in terms of software development. For instance, we support the operations unit at MRC and LSHTM and MRCU, which is the Uganda version of MRC. OneAtom, this is a West African network which MRC is part of, for instance. We support their operations teams in automating some of the processes they do, or business intelligence kind of things they need to do. But also, like I said, we really want to be doing some give back to society by doing community engagement in the Gambia, close to home, but also within the network or some other people, some other entities outside the Gambia. And mostly it will focus on data science-related activities, to support health institutions in the country, for instance, and also training and capacity building and policy type support for partner institutions. I think that is it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. That was really, really cool. The work that you're doing is not only incredibly important, but you have a network through MRC that is able to answer some really, really big questions because of how it's placed and how you're able to work, across a much larger network than just the Gambia, for instance. It's really cool. So I hope that you all are coming up with some really interesting questions to ask, and you can again put those in the chat if you'd like. We'll go next to our next presenter, and again, we'll come back to questions afterward. But I have an idea that some of your questions may evolve as you hear from other speakers over the time. So we're going to go to our next speaker, and our next speaker comes to us from, I'm pulling it up here, just a minute, from the College of Medicine from the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. Chizoma, are you on the phone, on the line? Perhaps not, and we can go to our next speaker and come back. Chizoma? Okay, well, again, this is an informal session, so we're just switching it around. So maybe we'll go to our next presenter from Elizade University, Olayinka. Are you on?
Hi, Olayinka.
Okay,
yes, I am. I'm all right.
You?
Sorry, oh, sorry, I'm just joining, so I wanted to know what is it that you're actually doing. If you don't mind giving me a quick brief.
Really? So just talking about what you all are doing in the area of, from a data science perspective, from what you're working on that you may want to form more effective collaborations with, poll this incredible group of people around some of the questions that you're asking, some of those things we can discuss.
All right. Okay. Well, let me just see what I'm doing. I'm Olayinka Oshiolale. I work at a private university called Elizade University in Ondo State, Nigeria. I am a microbiologist, and I do work in the area of infectious diseases with focus on dengue virus, leishmaniasis, and I also do work on environmental contaminants of water, looking at water quality. And so of recent, I've been looking at brands of water sold within Ondo State, try to combine both what's it called, metagenomics, and I'm also using the culture base to assess 20 brands of water sold in the community. And well, I know that I'm going to be getting quite a lot of data, from the work. Just sent some of the samples out for sequencing, and hoping to get the result back soonest. And I expect quite a handful of data, which I think, yeah, probably might fit into what the DSI is. Thank you.
Yeah, there are so many different groups around the continent that that are perhaps not involved in DSI at this point, but the people on this call, whether they're from current research hubs or associated with DSI in other ways, we can start seeing how we can pull people in. You actually do have a question in the chat. Are you doing any virus surveillance in your water quality work?
Yes, our virus surveillance is part, but that we're going to be answering using our data from the metagenomics. Yeah, it is part, but using the metagenomics data is what we'll be able to probe our data to see what kind of primary viral genomes we'll be able to see in the samples that we've analyzed.
Okay, yeah. And if there are additional questions, certainly put those in the chat. More generally, so I don't know if we have anybody on from College of Medicine from University of Ibadan yet. Anybody on, Chizoma or otherwise?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to put anybody on the spot if they weren't ready to speak, but it was just we were hoping to have somebody present from there. So if that is feasible, great. Otherwise, we can just continue our discussion.
Do you want me to make a presentation? I don't have any presentation.
No, no, that's perfectly fine. That's not an issue. We can more just focus our time on some general discussion about perhaps.
Okay. I may just wish to let the group know that I belong to the Bridge LC project of the DSI African Consortium. So if anybody who wants to latch onto that, I think that information should be given out.
Sure. And if you would like to put that in the chat, then people can know a little bit more about what you're doing and some of the questions that you're trying to answer. I do encourage you all to check out the DSI Africa, dsi-africa.org website that has been posted more broadly. And you can see not only the expansiveness of this program, but also maybe where you can fit in and how you can connect in, especially not only a disease-specific area, a data-specific area, but also a regional area. So what would you say, maybe I can also put you back on the spot, Abubakar, about what do you see as the big challenges right now in West Africa and how we can perhaps start addressing those through more effective partnership or utilization of new data streams, or what you're needing to turn some of your questions into answers?
Yeah, this connects to the last question during the last break. What is the biggest challenge for data science in hubs in Africa? I remember typing data quality of data, because we want to do data science, we want to do AI or machine learning. The data is not good, nothing is going to come out of it, right? So data quality is the biggest problem. And you can think about that in terms of how do we improve quality? Can we get bigger data sets? Can we integrate bigger data sets? Or do we have to do a better way of collecting better data? Or even just to digitize data, there's a lot of places until now, paper and pen is being used, and that is useless to the computer. We need to be able to digitize data. So data quality is at the heart of the data science for health revolution. If that is conquered, we would do very impactful work in Africa. I think, yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges.
When you say data quality, there are a lot of different areas that, whether it's effective movement from paper records into EHR, whether it is more appropriate genomic data, whether it's more appropriate location-based data. What are your biggest challenges from, data quality is a big term.
Correct. On all the data that is being collected, you go in there, even at MRC, sometimes, we say, oh, we've been doing TV studies, we have all this data. The moment you get the data, you realize that it was poorly collected, number one, for instance. There are a lot of misrepresent, like unentered entries, or entries that are not properly entered or missing. And, if two researchers use different data imputation methods to fill that, they might end up into two different results, right? So that is one thing. Of course, when you talk about this is general. And if you talk about location data, it's a lot of and in fact, probably those are much better now, given that if you want to use satellite data, there's international bodies, big bodies, where if we give you access, you can download this data. And this is much more accurate. But the day-to-day, more impactful data or more useful data, you want to look at study about TB, for instance, you want to collect data directly from the patients. You go to the hospitals, you find that the data that is being collected leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, even from a data collection perspective, there one of the biggest challenges that we face in the world is associated with cardiometabolic work, and even just the more standardized way of collecting blood pressure data is really hard. From our data analysis is contingent on data collection as well, and sometimes just the standardizing methods for collecting data associated with just a simple blood pressure medication usage, or simple blood pressure test is hard enough as it is. So yes, I completely agree with you. And Collins actually brings up in the chat that there's that just even the availability of EHR is a challenging problem. What would you say, maybe Collins, you could actually add to that? What is your availability of EHR currently?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Currently, we are still in the process of building infrastructure for a good quality electronic health record, and a number of the projects we are working on are funded by either NIH or WHO, and then we need to sort out issues on ownership of data sets and those kind of stuff, and before we can make data available publicly. And of course, that we have records, there are a number of ethics that has to do with it, and security and all that. So that has to be sorted out. So that's why I say that availability is the most difficult challenge we have here in Africa. For instance, I have 2 PhD students who want to work, but they can't find the data they need to work. And most of the time, they have to get data that are outside the demography of Africa, and which may not suit the purpose of their research. So that's why I think that availability is the issue. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely understand. We actually have a concurrent session going on right now around OpenMRS. So maybe that would be something to check into afterward. Maybe the discussion on the video from YouTube will be helpful around the OpenMRS platform as well. So that's another area. But yes, I agree with you. This becomes really, really difficult. Michelle?
Hi, Brad. Thanks for the session and the speakers. So just thinking about Bubuka's comment on digitization of data, and I was just thinking, does the Madiba project not digitize some records? Was it autopsy records, or are they doing that?
Digital
And I was wondering what.
autopsy. Yeah, digital autopsy. And but they've had a cohort for some time, you know, all the way through H3 Africa and all of that, to be able to collect information that is pretty rare. But that digital autopsy data that is aligned also with location-based data is really, really interesting for being able to assess longitudinally.
Okay. And then I was just wondering, I mean, there seems to be like, there's always like ads about AI tools that can apparently digitize written text. And I was wondering if, Boubacar, what tools were you using, if any, and are these AI tools any help? I mean, are they useful, or are they just like, you have to troubleshoot all of them? Or I was just wondering, yeah.
Hi, Michelle. Nice to see you. So I missed something. When you say you were talking about digitizing the records. How do we use AI to do them, right? To do that, to help. Was that the question?
And are they helpful? Are they working to help digitize?
Yeah, so there are a lot of tools that are being thrown around. The most effective ones are commercial right now, and they are usually not AI based. This is like optical character recognition kind of methods. And of course, AI is used to enhance some of those outputs, but I don't think they're freely available right now. Even the successful AI ones aren't freely available. Yeah, but I think it's worth trying. This is what for African researchers to try these AI methods on these kinds of problems, because we should digitize. If we don't digitize the data, it's not useful anymore. Yeah, for data science, but maybe somebody else could have a record of something that they find useful. I find the one you mentioned, the Madiba project thing, was very, very like innovative. Definitely, I think we need things like that in a massive scale. Yeah,
these become areas that we're trying to tackle across DSI, but that's when it's so important to bring in people that are beyond DSI to start answering some of these questions. So whether that is through universities, whether that's through incredible entities like MRC that is in the Gambia, but then so much bigger than that, to be able to help us start answering these questions. That's why these partnerships are so critical to answering, to fulfilling the mission of DSI, certainly, but really beyond that, to giving more people more access to health, happiness, opportunity in the world. There's a lot on our shoulders, and the data revolution is enabling a lot of that. So are there any other questions at this point? I do see John. John, you have a comment in the chat around reducing errors. You want to say more about that?
Yes, please, John, go ahead.
Okay, do you want me to talk about that?
Well, if you have a specific question that we can discuss a little bit more about from your point here,
no,
it is a really important one.
No, I was just trying to answer the person that was trying to say, is it possible for AI tools to be used for some of this scenario? Absolutely, is very possible, and if it can be deployed, it will make things easier for us around its emerging Africa, or emerging technology generally, even in developed technology, because like he mentioned, if you can OCR a lot of those documents, then you could do data extraction better and faster. or you could do entity recognition, which I wanted to send to, which we try and track. I mean, it could even give something like a good summary of it, thousands of documents, so to say, and even give features that are very related or common to a particular community or to a particular data set and so on. So AI tools, if it can be used, will go very well to do some of that a lot.
The availability of those, Bubakar was talking about just sometimes just not available enough.
Correct.
Even though the potential is high,
Yes.
the availability is low.
That was my issue. It's like we have yes, this is you would have a lot of theses where people have tried to do a proof of concept of these things, but to have them massively working and well, you have specialized companies actually that have very accurate, very high quality one, but they're very expensive for the average researcher in Africa or Ministry of Health or hospital in Africa to use.
Well,
the other thing is
let's talk. I was just talking to Brad the last meeting before now. Well, maybe after this we'll talk, we can chat. I mean, if we can meet with some Horizon Europe or funded projects, then some of these things we need to start to work on it. It's high time we started to make this to work, because if you can come into Horizon Europe project, then you could get funding. And I remember even one of the projects got 1 year OCR NLP system from Google free for thousands of data, which was using Serbia, it was using Romania, and it was using another country, Lithuania, I can't remember. So it's something that needs to be worked on, but a good proposal needs to be developed around it, so to say. So let's talk.
Yes, let's talk then, John.
John,
you
are
have my
highlighting exactly the point of this meeting. Developing those new ideas, talking, putting your information in the chat so you can reach out to people, so you can say, this is a question that is still in my mind, but I haven't been able to fully form it. And I don't want to talk about it, but you can still reach out to somebody after this meeting to be able to delve into these really critical areas. So John, Bubakar, talk. I'm looking forward to hearing the outcomes of that. And another important point, NIH is a very, very important funder in the world, but we're not the only one. There are so many overlaps with the Wellcome Trust. The Wellcome Trust is launching a massive new program around data science on the continent. The Gates Foundation just released a new opportunity around data science. Maybe
I heard about that.
Definitely check it out. It's really cool. There are so many different ways that we can start really answering some of these shared questions together. And getting everybody on the call today is a way that we can start learning about each other, learning from each other, and figuring out how to make new collaborations to put in a new funding application or to leverage the work that's going on within the research hubs, for instance, already to take it to the next level. There are so many things that we can learn from the current projects that are funded through DSI, but they are mandated to keep expanding every year that DSI is funded to new partners, not only within academia, but across the gamut of for-profit institutions, of nonprofits, of community stakeholder groups, of new things like bringing in MRC Gambia to do more really important work. We've got not enough work going on in far West Africa. We've got a DSI Africa site research hub in Cameroon, relatively nearby. But that's, we want to keep learning from each other to make sure that we're really coming up with contextualized solutions for the entire continent of Africa, not just the individual sites that are represented. So these kinds of calls are how we do that. These kinds of partnerships, John and Bubakar, are how we do that. Okay, so let's see if there are any other questions. There are no other questions on the chat, but I'm just reading a few more. let's see. There are some things in the chat that I would encourage you all to look at around, for instance, the opportunity for sponsorship for data science support for faculty and students, and then trying to figure out what to do. NIH is often not the people to ask about that, but the people on this call that represent different universities around the continent are the people to ask those questions to. So if you do have some feedback for David around sponsorship for data science support for faculty and students at universities, if you do have some thoughts about that, I would encourage you to either follow up directly with David. Maybe David, you can put your email in the chat so people can follow up with you about this, or you can respond in the chat. All of those are options. Any other questions, especially associated with some of the challenges that we're facing in West Africa and how we can come together as a group to sort of address those, not only from the data science perspective, but also the very contextualized needs in West Africa? Any other thoughts?
I just wanted to add, like, yeah, when I look at the map for DSI Africa, I thought I was a partner or something. I'm not sure how. I get these letters. I guess I subscribe to the newsletter, so I get the news flash all the time. But yeah, I'm happy. Definitely, I would like to be involved. So I'm happy to talk to people like John. Yeah, Ida was asking. Some people are asking how to collaborate. Just send an email, and we would start from there. Yeah, when I looked at the Elwazi thing, you know, they're going to create a local hub, and the only one is in West Africa would be in Mali, for instance. You know, we can think of extending that further to the further west, in Gambia, for instance. We would be happy to have that, something like that. So yeah, sure. I think we would be happy to increase the presence in Western Africa, I think.
Maybe I can call on Michelle. Michelle leads our coordinating center. Maybe I can call on her to see what are better ways that the coordinating center in Elwazi can sort of help to make sure that people are getting the right information coming out. Again, the DSI African network is critical, but it's so much bigger than just the people that are currently funded. And the mailing list goes out to a lot more people, sending a lot of information. Maybe Michelle, you can speak to that.
So just it sounds like Boubacar is already subscribed to the
news. Yes.
Yeah, so in the previous round of discussions, we did mention that the Partnerships and Outreach Working Group is open to external members, and that group meets monthly and obviously hosts these events. They also host, we also host the face-to-face network exchange, and you are in Gambia, and the next meeting will be not quite near, but the next meeting will be in Kigali. So if you could make it there, if you're in the area, you can attend the open sessions, which is the day one. We have the networking exchange, and then just those sessions, some of those sessions are open to everyone if you're there. And then I think, just in terms of what you were saying, in terms of the Elwazi sort of nodes, that there is one in Mali, and you wish that you had something similar in the Gambia. So there were some discussions in the previous rounds about, someone mentioned that because of the federated way that data will be stored and accessed, that it may be a good idea for different, I suppose, institutions, and I don't know if Elwazi would be open to that, but different institutions host their own servers, but it also links to the Elwazi platform. So more servers across jurisdictions across Africa will just make access, you know. So maybe that's one thing to explore with them. It sounds like you're thinking about that infrastructure as well.
Yes, definitely. That would be helpful. Yeah. You know, I was saying hi. You didn't recognize me. We were in Addis Ababa together.
Yes, I think I did recognize you. I did.
It's great to see these collaborations expanding and really learning who the players are to be able to talk to make sure that we are continuing these conversations into, you know, actionable grant opportunities, to just even being able to see what's going on is so critical. So we have 5 more minutes left. In that amount of time, do we have any other questions from the group that may be necessary for perhaps Boubacar to answer, maybe Michelle, maybe more generally about how partnerships across DSI Africa work? Any other questions from anyone? Again, this is an informal group, so please speak up. Okay, well, a quiet group at this point, but I do really want to thank Boubacar for your presentation and you know, really discussing what you're doing and how it can really link in more effectively. I do hope, obviously, that we keep these conversations going, whether that's through the partnerships group, whether that's through seeing you in Kigali for our open sessions coming up very, very soon. And then just continuing to learn from each other to make sure that what we're doing is appropriately contextualized by various stakeholder groups, different disciplines, learning from each other to solve some big, big problems in the world. Okay, so with that, I think that we'll conclude, say thank you all, and then we can all start moving back to the main room. We'll all be moved back there very soon anyway. So we can start moving back to the main room for our final session, highlighting the really cool work that the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation is doing, and then perhaps other funding opportunities from the private sector funding agencies, not just the big NIH public sector funding agencies. Again, we're all trying to solve similar problems together, and different funding streams is often the way that we do that. So thank you all so much for your time in this session, and I look forward to seeing you in the plenary. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Brad. You have a good day.
Thanks so much,
Brad. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks for great conversation, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.